Hello everyone. I'm sorry it didn't work last time. I couldn't record the presentation. There were some technical issues. So here I'm doing it again for you so that you can still access it. So this second session is about visible and tangible learning. So let's get started. It's our second online class and today we're going to look at what's the difference between memory and retention, what is visible and tangible learning examples, and a discussion and perspectives. This is already recorded. So memory and retention. How do we learn? How much effort should we make to learn? How do we remember and what is long-term and short-term memory? So when Caleb Gattegno created the silent way, he really made a difference between these two terms. For him, memory is something which relates to making efforts to remembering something, and it's something which is fading in time and which we cannot rely on because it's a short term. So for instance, thinking about strategies like, students trying to memorize some vocabulary without really understanding it so that they can pass the test, but then they have no idea what they're learning and they forgot it after the test. Retention, it's different. It's suppose you are going to a supermarket and few days later you go to this supermarket again. So even if it's only the second time you go there, you still remember, you still can recall some where is the cash counter, where are certain things, not everything, but you have a visual memory of what was there at the time. And this is what he called mental imaging. This is something we do unconsciously. We do remember things which we see and where we have an experience. So how can we translate this into the classroom? How can we provide experiences for our students to be able to recall these things and to be able to have a long-term retention of a certain concept, of a certain structure, of a vocabulary word, etc. So he decided to work on visible and tangible learning. So he's trying to develop sensorial, which should be written with AL, sensorial and mental imaging. That means that we use some prompts, which can be visual stimuli, such as pictures, photos, which can be videos. It can be the rods, the colored rods that we use. It can also be just moving in the classroom, doing some specific gestures. It can be using the space, but anything which can be experienced by the learner, which can be seen as much as possible, and which can be kinesthetic. Then there is the exploration and experiments part. It's not just something we see and we remember. It's something we have to work with. So we have to make an experiment. We have this trial and error process that should happen in class. And finally, something which is also important in the silent way world is the difference between presence and concentration, for instance, or maybe concentration as in trying to focus consciously by being really, by trying to pay attention. And really, when we say pay attention, we do pay attention, we pay things, we pay what Gattegno used to call Ogdens, which was for him a concept of effort. So whenever we need to learn something by rote, or we need to learn new vocabulary, which is difficult because it's totally arbitrary, we have to concentrate and we have to use our memory, this memory system, which is potentially which is not really sustainable because we can potentially forget. And what if we could be, instead of concentrating on paying attention, what if we could provide situation where our learners don't have to be in such a stressful situation and can rather use their presence? That means they can let go and they can be totally open to learn something new and they can experiment it, explore with it, and if they make mistake, it doesn't matter because it's part of learning the thing. And on the other end, the teacher as well has to be present to the student, as in observing the situation and be able to speak when it's required, or act or react, or guide, facilitates, but trying not to force the student to memorize something, but rather to discover something. So all these kind of concepts are here in visible and tangible learning. How to teach numbers, for instance. Numbers are mostly arbitrary. It depends on which language we're talking about. If we're looking at the French language over here, we have this chart, which is the silent way chart for the numbers. And as you can see, we don't have all the numbers written here, but only the ones that are required to learn the numeral system in French. So when we know all these words over here, we can count up to billions. So basically, we can count in another language. So what Gattegno was very clever because he wanted to create a material which really works on economy, which saves students' effort. So we don't have to learn, for instance, the word 18 in French because it's 10 and 8. It's the word 10 and 8. So this kind of awarenesses and this kind of shortcuts we can make. So, and this is a way that we can go with the chart. So we have the words over here, and here we have the Cuisenaire roads. So this little white rod over here can be considered this, like 10, okay? The word this. So this one is 20, okay? 20. Then this one is 30. That's 30. And so on. As you can see, those ones are combined because it's visual. It helps the student to learn the new number because over 60 in French, these three tens are difficult to learn because this 70 in French is said 60, 10. So here we can visualize that it's the same as 60 and we added 10. The next number was supposed to be 80. In French, is said 4 times 20. So we have the 20 in this color, and we put it 4 times. So you can guess what's the next number in French. It's 90, which is said 25. It's 4 times 20 plus 10. So it's an interesting way to kind of remember the system. Pronunciation is also something which contains arbitrary information, right? You go in that section. These are the vowels of the French language, and over here are the consonants. These three are semi-consonants or semi-vowels. And how do we learn them? By experience, by experimenting with sounds. This is, for instance, the key of this. So they are organized in a way that helps students learn those sounds. And it's not organized for a student of linguistics or a student of phonetics. It's rather a pedagogical approach. So you can see this E and U, and the only difference between these two, first there has to be an awareness of where do you put your tongue in your mouth. But the difference between them is the lips. So basically we have to learn this line, this second line, and then the nasals over here. So we need to learn the process of labialization. That means when we move our lips, and also where our tongue is in our mouth. So here the tongue is in front, whereas here it's in the back, for instance. So all these materials create in a way that helps students learn. It's also visual, and it's also tangible in the sense that they can have an experience with it, they can explore. Other examples of visual and tangible activities, of course, using the silent way charts because all the materials is visual and kinesthetic. Using Cuisenaire roads to make different visual situations, and using pictures. So using any prompts and trying to describe the pictures, and according to the levels we have in our class, make more or less complicated sentences. And there are some physical activities that I talked about one last time, which is the temporal activity with an arrow on the floor and a point of reference, which is today, aujourd'hui, for instance. And in front of you, so you can be positioned in this today. In front of you is your future, in the back it's your past, and you can work on different temporal indicators. So here's to show you, so I was just talking about this one over here. So the student is in the point yesterday, and this is today, and we can give him different words, and he can experiment what are the differences. These are other types of activities. So here the student is pointing at a word on the Fidel. So any words of the French language can be pointed on this. So whenever they need a new word, which is not on the words in color chart, they can come and learn a new one. They can also come as an exercise to retain a word spelling and pronunciation. So this is excellent for them in everyday activity, because they also can independently go and point at a word and check and all these things. Here was an activity about the house. We were working on prepositions, but as well as routine verbs, which are reflexive in French. So we built that house all together. We decided to put a sofa here. This is the garden. There is the garage here with a car. All sorts of furniture, so they can work on vocabulary, they can learn on the reflexive verbs, they can learn prepositions, and you can use it for a few weeks because it's so rich in terms of making visual situation and learning new vocabulary. Over here, these are simply rods as rods. That is, here we can compare them, for instance. This is taller than this one. This is on top of this, or the brown one is under the green one, etc., etc. So this is simple, but it makes things easier for them because they can experiment. You can start with them as a group, and then they can practice it in pairs. A student pointing at another tool made by a colleague, Bruno Perron, who is in Japan. It's excellent for a little more advanced students. It's working on conjugaison, so conjugation. This is a trick to find out differences between two sounds and making sure that students can see and feel, because they can do it, they just not just see it on me, they can also experiment it, see the difference between two sounds. One is with the mouth closed, one is with the mouth open. Here, a student proud of having made such a long sentence. So each rod here represents a category, a grammatical category. So in yellow, these are articles or determiners. Suppose this is in orange are the verbs. In red, these are prepositions, etc., etc. So it's very easy for them to remember the structure and also play with it, so they can make mistakes and they can see. They can also sometimes, I don't know if you like to do that, but sometimes they need to see the difference between their mother tongue and the language that they're learning, so we can compare them. We can compare the structure. Here is this was made. This is just recent by Piers Messam. He's showing here these are teeth, under the lower teeth of the French speaker and his tongue, which is touching the front teeth over here. And this is the English one. So as you can see, this is a different pattern in the sense like we're not having the same articulation settings in our mouth when we are a speaker of English, British English, or French. The French people, for instance, would use the blade that is a little bigger than just the tip of the tongue in English. So we have more contact in front than the English people. And the back of the tongue is also different in the different language. You can also use the rods to show different things, such as a clock over here. Use mirrors so that students can explore, not only feel what's happening, but also look at their mouth, and sometimes they need to see, to have this, to be more aware of what they have to do. So that's it, and now you can hear the recording of the conversation I had with Denis. So don't forget that if you have any question, don't hesitate to share with me, with us on the WiZIQ feeds. Thank you so much. These are the next session's points. So next time we are going to talk about creation of activities. So I suggested that if you're interested, you could set a goal which you can achieve in your teaching, or you can try to collaborate and prepare to share your idea in the next session. But it's okay if you don't. The only thing is to be able to think about practical activities that can help you, because I just talk to you about things that works for me, but doesn't mean it will for you. Perspiration, that means if you can try to practice this, postpare one of your class and see, try to put something into practice. So see if you have a problem in your class, try to see how you can solve that problem the next time. And then you can share your feedback with us. And what I suggested is to share some ways of integrating technology which will work with the Silent Way class. So thank you so much. Here are some resources so you have access to this slide presentation. I really suggest you to look at Donald Cherry's videos. He has so many hours of English training in Japan. You can select a video, for instance, and watch visible and tangible learning, because this is really a very good silent way teacher with a lot of experience, and you can always see visible and tangible learning in his classes. So it could be good if you don't have practical experiences to share, you could watch one of them and reflect on it and then share with us. Here are some ideas on using Cuisinart rods. So this is also, I think it's nice to watch it. And here are some pictures of aspects of the silent way, which comes from the recently created website of Rosalind Young, who is also an excellent silent way teacher with many years of experiences and also of training with Caleb Gattinio.